Weddings are supposed to be happy moments, right? For most people, yes, but if you come from a broken family like mine, things can get complicated. I'm 31 years old, and in just 2 months, I'm getting married to the love of my life. We've been planning this day for over a year now, and everything seemed to be coming together perfectly. The dress was chosen, the venue was booked, the guest list was finalized. It was going to be the wedding I had dreamed of. My dad, who has always been my rock, insisted on paying for most of the wedding. He wanted it to be a grand event at a beautiful venue, something elegant and special. And of course, I was thrilled. For once, everything seemed to fall into place, except for one thing: my mom. I've never had the easiest relationship with my mother. My parents divorced when I was just 5 years old. It wasn't a messy divorce, but the split left scars in ways that no custody agreement could resolve. My mom remarried a year after the divorce and had my half-sister, Bernie, who's now 23. While my parents shared custody, I spent most of my time with my dad. Our relationship grew distant as my mom got absorbed in her new life, with her new family. As I got older, things only got worse. My mom's attention shifted more and more toward Bernie, and I became a secondary priority. I accepted it, but that didn't mean it didn't hurt. Fast forward to now, I've been dating my fiancé for over 5 years, and we finally decided it was time to get married. I told my dad about our plans, and he was thrilled. Of course, he immediately offered to help financially, wanting to make it a day to remember. I also told my mom, and she seemed happy for me, but I soon realized that wasn't the end of it. 3 weeks ago, out of nowhere, I got a call from my mom. I was surprised. She and I don't talk much, so receiving a call like this was unusual. I assumed it was just to catch up or talk about the wedding details, maybe share in my excitement, but I couldn't have been more wrong. Her voice came through the phone, cheerful in a way that I knew all too well. It was a tone that meant something bad was coming to. "Sweetie, I have good news. Guess what? Bernie got engaged." I was taken aback. I didn't even know Bernie was seriously dating anyone. We weren't close, so it wasn't surprising that I hadn't heard the news. But the way my mom said it made it sound like this was something I should have already known. "Oh, that's great. Congratulations," I said, but in the back of my mind, I couldn't help but wonder why she was telling me this now. After a brief pause, she lowered her voice and continued. "Well, here's the thing. Bernie and her fiancé are on a very tight budget, and they can't afford a big wedding like yours. So we were thinking, what if Bernie and her fiancé get married on the same day as you? We could use the same venue, just a few hours earlier. Maybe Bernie could have a small ceremony in the morning, and then you could have yours in the afternoon. It would save us a lot of money, and it would be so special for you two to share that day." I was speechless. My mom was asking me to share my wedding day, the one I had been planning for over a year, with my half-sister, with whom I barely had a relationship. The thought of sharing such an intimate and personal day with someone I hardly knew felt completely wronged. "No way," I responded immediately. "I'm not going to let her ruin my day. This is my wedding day, Mom, not a family reunion or a way to save money. I'm not sharing it with anyone, especially not with Bernie. I'm sorry." Her tone faltered, but she insisted. "Bernie and her fiancé really can't afford something like yours. You have to understand how hard it is for us to give her what she deserves. It's just lending them the venue for a few hours. They would only use a corner of the large hall. It's not much to ask." But I couldn't accept it. I was firm in my decision, and no amount of pleading could change that. I told her, "I'm sorry, but the answer is no." For the next few weeks, I was bombarded with messages and calls from my mom. She didn't give up. Every conversation was the same, her begging me to let Bernie have her wedding on the same day. She tried every tactic she could think of: emotional manipulation, guilt trips, you name it. At first, she tried the family card, suggesting that it would be so special for me and Bernie to share such an important day. But we weren't close, and I wasn't interested in pretending otherwise. "We're not close, and I don't want to be," I told her. "I accepted a long time ago that Bernie and I won't have a sibling bond, and that's fine with me." Next, she tried guilt. "You and your dad have so much. Your wedding is going to be beautiful and expensive. Don't you think it's a little selfish to keep all that to yourself when your sister and her fiancé are struggling?" I was furious. I couldn't let her manipulate me anymore. "First of all, I'm not responsible for their finances," I said sharply. "If Bernie wants to get married without a steady job, that's on her. How are they going to manage afterward if they can't afford a big wedding? Let them have a small one, but don't ask me to share my special day. After that conversation, I stopped answering her calls. I was mentally exhausted. I had worked hard to rebuild my relationship with her over the years, but this new episode felt like a slap in the face. I was setting boundaries, but my mom refused to accept them. Then things escalated. My mom, frustrated that I wouldn't relent, decided to go behind my back and talk to my fiancé. Yes, you read that right. She approached him, telling him the same sob story about Bernie's financial struggles and begging him to let Bernie have her wedding at our venue. She even suggested moving our ceremony later in the day so Bernie could have hers in the morning. Thankfully, my fiancé is a calm and rational person. He listened to her, empathized with her, and told her he would discuss it with me. As soon as he told me about it, I was furious, but he calmed me down. "It's your day," he said, "and I'll support whatever you decide." His words were exactly what I needed to hear. I was done being nice. I immediately called my mom and scolded her. I told her that if she didn't stop with her manipulative tactics, I would cut her out of my life for good and ban her from my wedding. She cried and apologized, but I didn't want her apology. I wanted her to stop disrespecting me, and I didn't want her at my wedding. Things got even worse when I learned that Bernie had sent out wedding invitations for the same date and location as mine. My aunt, who's always the first to know about family drama, called me in a panic. She asked, "Have you seen Bernie's wedding invitation?" Confused, I said no, and she told me that Bernie had already sent invitations to more than 50 people, including relatives who were supposed to attend my wedding. The audacity. Bernie was trying to ruin my special day by hijacking the venue and the guest list. I drove straight to my mom's house, furious. I showed her the invitation and demanded an explanation. She burst into tears, saying that she had promised Bernie and her dad that I would share the wedding day with them. They'd already sent the invitations, and there was no turning back now. She begged me, saying, "Honey, please reconsider. It's already done. If you cancel, the groom's family will humiliate us." But I was resolute. I told her coldly, "I've told you time and time again that I will not share my wedding with Bernie. If they've already sent out invitations, that's their problem, not mine." At that point, I told my mom that she and Bernie were not welcome at the wedding. I reached out to the venue to make sure my mom and her side of the family would be kept out. A few days passed in silence, but the tension was palpable. I knew she was upset, but I didn't care. The way she tried to manipulate me was too much. The wedding day was approaching, and I was doing my best to focus on the good things, my fiancé, the dress, the excitement. But my mom kept trying to reach me, and my anxiety was growing. Was she going to show up anyway? Would she try to ruin my day? I thought things had calmed down, but the night before the wedding, my mom showed up at my door. She was crying. She looked broken. "Sweetheart," she said, her voice trembling, "I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I shouldn't have pushed you like I did. I know now that this is your day, and I respect that." I could see the guilt in her eyes, but it was too little, too late. I told her that the damage had been done. I couldn't forgive her for the way she tried to destroy the one thing I had worked so hard for. She left, and I finally felt like I could breathe. On my wedding day, everything went perfectly. The ceremony was beautiful, the guests were thrilled, and my dad walked me down the aisle with a smile that I will never forget. But in the back of my mind, I couldn't forget what my mom had tried to do. There was no room for her at my wedding, but it was more than that. I realized that she had been controlling, selfish, and manipulative for years, and I didn't want that energy in my life anymore. The wedding was mine. And in the end, I learned a powerful lesson. Standing up for myself was worth every second.